Hello friends, we'll be discussing the concept of what are the determinants of price elasticity of demand. Now, basically determinants of price elasticity refers to what are the factors that change the price elasticity of any demand is something that you need to understand. Now, what exactly we'll be dealing with is something that we'll be teaching you right now. Let's start with the similar concept, or let's start with certain gist on this. Now, price elasticity of demand is dependent upon a number of factors as follows. Of course, this price elasticity, whenever you're studying economics, you need to understand there are a lot of factors on which one thing depends on. So if there is any change in any of the factor, it can lead to a different change, or rather if one thing is pointed out, or rather if one thing is changing, if probably this thing is changing, these all things will have certain effects on it. Not completely changing, but it will definitely have a certain change on it. For example, if we break your nose, will you see, or rather will you be looking the same way the way you used to look earlier before getting your nose braked? No, of course not. It will be a different change. So absolutely, those facial changes can be seen because of one change in your nose. Similarly, if this thing, or rather in this factors, if any of the factors is changing, it will show, or rather it will show a changed picture completely. Now, what are those factors? Now, the factors refers to first as price level. This determinant, or rather this factor in the change in elasticity of demand, is known as first part, price level. The demand is generally elastic for moderately priced goods, but the demand for very costly and very cheap goods is inelastic. Now, demand is also known as generally elastic. That means it can increase, decrease. For moderately priced goods, that means something which is like moderately priced, average price goods. But when it comes to cheap demands, or rather cheap goods and costly goods, there the price isn't elastic. So no matter if you're selling a Jaguar for 1 crore or 1.5 crore, for me it is still going to be an inevitable part, or rather for me it is still going to be impossible because I don't have that much of income. And no matter if the chocolate is for 50 paise or 1 rupees, I'll still buy it. It doesn't matter if it is going to 50 paise or 1 rupees, I don't even care about that. But if the phone that I'm using right now, if it is costing 10,000, which earlier used to cost 13,000, then I might think of opting that phone because the price has reduced. Or if Samsung Galaxy or any other good phone, I'm getting it at a cheaper rate, I will still go for that. Hence, they're moderately priced goods. So there you can change the change, or rather you can see the change in demand and quantity here. But for costly goods and cheap goods, it doesn't matter. It is completely inelastic there. The rich do not bother about prices of the goods that they buy. Of course, the rich people have no consideration what is the price. If I'm driving a Jaguar, I won't think about what mileage it is giving. If I'm driving a Maruti, I would still, because the reason why I bought a Maruti car is because it is giving good average. But if I'm thinking of buying a Mercedes and planning to put in a CNG kit in that, it would be very stupid of me. Why? Is because if I'm planning to buy that car, I already have a lot of money to buy that car itself. That car is very costly. Hence, I won't even think of putting a CNG kit in that to see, or whether to figure out if that is giving me more mileage or not, because that will be a stupid idea. But if I'm buying a Maruti, of course I'm buying that with the reason because I have very restrictions on my income, or rather I have restricted income, and within that I have to fulfill all these things. Hence, I need to look for a car which is or rather which has a good mileage here. Hence, that thing. Now, very costly goods are demanded by rich people, and hence their demand is not affected much by changes in the prices. Now, Jaguar, Merc, or Rolls-Royce Phantom, Lamborghini, any such car, do you see normal people? Do you see a taxi, or rather do you see an Uber whereby you see a Lamborghini coming up in terms of Uber? Of course you don't, right? You still see a Wagoner, you still see a Santo, you still see some accident car or some other regular car that is coming in. If at all you figure out that for Uber pool you're getting a Lamborghini on the place, or rather as a car which is coming up as a taxi, you will be very surprised to see that. It doesn't happen in Indian economy here. Hence, for rich people, no matter what the price of the Lamborghini is, if it is 10 crores or if it is 5 crores, people will still buy it because that's their preference. That's a symbol status for them. Now, for example, increase in the price of Maruti car from 3 lakh to 3 lakh 20,000 will not make any negotiable or rather noticeable difference in the demand. Similarly, the change in the price of a very cheap good such as salt will not have any effect on their demand for their consumption, which is very small and fixed. For example, if the change in Maruti car, for example, if at all you will skip that example of Maruti car because now Maruti is very cheap, or rather everyone has Maruti. Let's talk about some other car, which is like if you have a costly car and if you have that much of income, if you have a car which is worth 3 crore and if it is going to 3 crore 10 lakh, will you still be thinking about whether I should buy that car or not? Because I still have that much of money. If I can afford 3 crore rupees, I can still afford 10 crores or rather 10 lakhs in it. Additional 10 lakhs won't make a difference for me. Same thing with cheap goods like salt. Salt is our basic necessity. If the prices are increasing or decreasing, I know that I won't be stopping my demand completely. I will still be having salt, but at the regular piece, or rather because here the usage of salt is very fixed in our food. Do we have salt like in breakfast salt, then lunch salt, then dinner salt? Do we eat bowl of salt? No, we don't. Hence, in such cases, we need to understand that these are certain things: cheap goods and costly goods. Price changes, elasticity, no concern here. This is one thing, price level. Now, the next factor is availability of substitutes. Deepika चाहिए या करीना ये चाहिए Katrina चाहिए, it depends on all thing whether the director finds that person to be suitable for that casting. But now, if you have Tata Salt, if you have Captain Coke, you have availability, you have like different varieties of salts, you have like different varieties of soaps. Hence there is a competition whereby your soap should stand outstanding, or rather it should stand out from the crowd. What needs to be done is dependent on the producer here. Hence availability of substitutes increases or rather has a majority effect on the elasticity of demand. Whether the product will have that demand or not, it is also dependent not on the factors of what that specific product has, but apart from that product, is there any rival product in the market which is offering the same features at a lower price or at a higher price, is something that you need to check here. Now, if a good has a close substitute, the price elasticity of demand for commodity will be very elastic as some other commodity can be used for it. Hence, if there is any substitute, I know that instead of this pencil, I can use some other pencil also, which is giving me the same feature. I, as a consumer, will think, मेरा क्या जा रहा है, मेरे को इतने में मिल रहा है ना. This is being done. So, in that scenarios, if I is or rather if I am getting my work done with small amount of expenses and the same quality, same features, why would I opt for something which is more expensive and giving me the same thing here? Why would I do that? I wouldn't. Hence, in such scenarios, this is a case, or rather this is one of the factor that affects the price elasticity of demand. A small rise in the price of such commodity will induce a consumer to switch to the consumptions to its substitute. Now, if the price of this specific pencil goes up, of course the demand for this quantity will go down, but the demand for the substitute quantity will go up. Why? Is because in that scenario this is providing the same feature, this is again providing the same feature, but the price of that quantity is, rather the price of that product is less as compared to this. For example, if the cost of tea is going up, would you still prefer tea? No, you wouldn't. You would go for coffee because coffee is anyway expensive. If 10 rupees is a cup of coffee, 6 rupees is a cup of tea, and now if the tea cost is going to 9 rupees, I would still spend one additional rupee and take coffee because that is much better than tea. Hence, substitute of tea is coffee. Tea ka price is rising, coffee ka demand is increasing, and similarly coffee's or rather tea's demand is going down because there is an increase in price. For example, gas, kerosene oil, coal, etc. will be used more as fuel if the price of wood increases. So if you know, there is certain things that we use, हम बोलते हैं जिसको चूल्हा बोलते हैं, जहाँ पर हम we use the food or rather we use the fuel as wood. If in that case, as in old villages, if you see now, have you ever seen a specific bhutta or rather a corn being fried, or rather you see that you shake it, or rather you go that thing, or rather you eat that thing on the beach side? Now you see that there are coal that is used as fuel. A coal is used. Do you see that wooden planks are being used? No, you don't. Why? Is because the cost of wood is more as compared to these things. These are like cheaper things. Hence, if you see, if you are drinking a cutting tea somewhere around the corner of the street, they won't be using wood to fire or rather fire that utensil and then make the tea itself. They'll be using coal, or that other you'll be using kerosene, which is more cheaper than coal. Hence, in such situations, you know that these are the substitutes and they serve the same purpose. The purpose of the matter is met. Hence, in that cases, you don't have to worry about anything here. Now, on the other hand, the demand for such commodity will have no close substitute, is elastic, or rather is elastic in such as salt. For example, if there are no substitutes for certain products, hence we think about, let's take an example of salt. Salt has no substitute here. I'm not talking about different companies producing salt. Apart from salt, is there any substitute that can be used instead of salt? Of course not. Hence, in such cases, the quantity demanded will not change significantly even if there is change in prices. That means if the price is increasing or decreasing, it doesn't matter to them, because we are going to use that in certain fixed amount itself. We are not going to use it completely. Hence, whatever we buy, even if there is slight change in price, increase or decrease, doesn't matter on the quantity demanded here. This is one thing, availability of substitutes. Next will be time period. A typical consumer finds it difficult to adjust his consumption of goods in short run. He needs to, or rather he needs time to adjust to the change situation. Therefore, demand of elasticity of good tends to increase in the long run. Now, there are certain goods whereby you have to get adjusted to use those goods. For example, you know that you have a car, now you want to upgrade to an automatic car, but you are not even used to such automatic cars. So you will think about whether you need to buy such automatic cars. Or let's take the best example here. According to the Indian government, we will be switching on to electronic vehicles, EV. If you see, there are a lot of car makers who are bringing up electronic models or hybrid models. Why? Is because in, or rather of lately near future, you will figure out that all the petrol and diesel cars, the production of those cars will be completely stopped. It is not saying, or rather we are not saying that petrol pumps will stop completely. The production of such cars will stop, and hence it will be taken over by the electronic vehicles. So now we are not used to such cars, because those cars need certain battery backup or charging power stations which don't have right now. So in such cases, you will think that the demand of that quantity will increase at a later stage. Right now it is not increasing, right now it is stagnant, but at a later stage the demand for those cars will keep on increasing and the demand for petrol and diesel cars will go down completely. Hence, time period is one more important thing. Hence, this is one of the important factor. Now, the next one refers to proportion of total expenditure spent on the product. What is the expense that we have done in getting that product finalized? This is the explanation to it. Elasticity of demand for a good is also dependent upon the proportion of consumers' budget spent on it. What is the expenditure I can make out of my income if I have to buy a car? Am I eligible? That is different concept, but am I willing to pay that much of amount? Because demand is a constitution whereby willingness to spend that much of money. You have money, that is fine, but are you willing to spend that much of money? That will constitute demand. If you don't have the willingness to spend that much of money, you won't go behind it. Even you have money, that is fine. On account of the price rise of the good, a consumer feels more concerned if he is spending a large proportion of his budget on it. The extent of change in demand by the consumer is not significant in the case of those goods on which consumers spend a very small proportion of a monthly budget. So, for example, if I'm spending 50 rupees on travel, okay, if I'm spending small amount of this on 50 rupees on a travel, if the travel prices are going up, that means the ticket cost of metro, if I'm a daily commuter via metro, if the metro prices are going up, do you think I'll be still going via metro? No, of course, because it is coming similar to the point whereby I take my car out and that is the same cost that I'm bearing if I'm going via metro. So dhakka leke kaun jayega? I'll go with my own convenience. I'll go in my own car. Even if I'm getting late, I'll leave a little early. That is the thing. Hence, in such cases, you need to understand this concept very well. In former case, elasticity of demand is higher, while in the latter case it is low. So in former case, where you have understood that if there is relatively change in the price and it has no effect on it, and if I'm willing to pay that much thing, then the demand is higher, that is fine. But if the willingness or other willingness is not there in such case, and I am going to pay up for these things, then in that cases I would think, okay, I don't want to spend, hence I won't go ahead and take a metro here. I would still take a car. Now, the next factor refers to habits. If I am a spender, I will spend on unnecessary things, no matter whatever it is. I like some sneakers, I'll take them. I like some clothes, I'll take them. Despite my house is full of such wardrobes around there, whereby I know that I have a lot of clothes, I can wear it day in, day out, change it 3 times in a day, still I would have new clothes in my wardrobe. Despite that, if I'm buying new clothes, that's my habit. Hence, the quantity demanded will depend on what are the habits here. Some products which are not essential for some individuals are essential for others. जो मेरे को अच्छा नहीं लगता जरूरी नहीं है तुमको अच्छा नहीं लगेगा. You will find it fine. But if I am not willing to spend so much of money behind a phone, people are still going crazy behind iPhones. People are still going crazy behind expensive phones. They would sell off their kidney. Why? Is because they have that thing in them. They have that habit that they want certain thing which is very expensive. If individuals are habituated of some commodities for demand, or rather demand of such commodities will be usually inelastic because they will use them even when the prices go up. For example, iPhones is the best example for iPhones. Now, iPhones have a very convenient and user-friendly interface. This is one of the most important factor if you're using a phone. If you're using an Android phone, you have to go into different folders, this, that, and everything you have to do. It's completely crap. But when you're using an iPhone, everything is on one screen itself. If you're using an iPad, everything is on one screen. You don't have to maneuver so many things. You don't have to go into so many folders. You have everything right at your fingertips. That's what the technology is. Now, if I am habituated to this thing, I would still go for that thing. I won't even consider that I have to go into some different part, I have to go into some different thing. I won't even think about that. If I'm habituated to this thing, I am very keen on using the same product itself. No matter the prices go up or if they go down, I am still going to use iPhone itself. That's the habit. Now, a smoker generally does not smoke less when the prices of the cigarette goes up. For example, if I am smoking, then in such cases, if I'm a regular smoker, I won't even think the prices of cigarettes are going from 20 rupees to 30 rupees. I would still pay for it because I am a smoker and I like doing that, or rather I'm habituated to it. Now, nature of the commodities is one more determinant. The demand for necessities is inelastic. Whatever is required on daily basis, it is inelastic. No matter the prices go up or go down, I would still need that. That is my basic requirement. And that for comfort and luxuries is elastic. But if it comes to luxurious goods or comforting goods, I would still see whether my willingness is there to spend that much of amount or not. So this is so because certain goods which are essential will be demanded at any price, whereas goods meant for luxuries can be dispensed with easily if they appear to be costlier. So if they are regular goods whereby I need them as my basic necessity, whatever price it is, I will still buy them. Although I'll buy less quantity, but I'll still buy them. I'm not saying that the demand will completely go down. But when it comes to luxurious and expensive goods, I would still think of कि मेरे को डालना है क्या इतना पैसा सच में? Do I have to invest so much of money and whether it is going to reap me something? If it is not, I won't even put that much of money. Various uses is another determinant. A commodity which has several uses will have elastic demand such as milk, wood, etc. If you're using milk, you know that milk can be used for making curd, milk can be used for making cheese, milk can be used for making tea, milk can be used for making protein shakes and every other thing that you can think of. So if the commodity has different uses, then the demand for that product is elastic. That means even if you increase the price today, for milk, earlier you used to pay 30 rupees a liter, now you're paying 60 rupees a liter. Still you're buying milk, right? You're not discarding the milk. कल से बोल देंगे नहीं पीना है milk. It doesn't happen like that, correct? So, on the other hand, a commodity having only one or fewer uses will have inelastic demand. Now, car. What is the use of car? Taking you from point A to point B. Any other use? Does that car give you something else? Does that car give you any kind of importance, or rather does that car give you any kind of monetary benefit unless and until you're putting it on rent? Nothing, right? Hence, in that cases, the demand will be inelastic. You will still think if you have willingness to do that much of expenses. The consumer finds it easy to adjust the quantity, or rather the consumer finds it easier to adjust the quantity demanded of a good when it is to be used for satisfying several wants then it is, or rather then if it is confined to a single of your uses. So if there are multiple uses, I won't think about what the price is, but if there are only single uses, I would still think if I have the willingness to pay that much of amount. For this reason, a multiple use good tends to have more elastic demand. So depending on the various uses of goods, the demand will differentiate here. Postponing consumptions. Usually it depends if I have to buy this good at this date or not. If it is suppose, or rather if I can take my month off without using this good at this specific month, I can still postpone that, and hence it will affect the demand here. Usually the demand for commodities, the consumption of which can be postponed, is elastic as the price rise and are expected to fall again. So if I'm thinking that okay, I need this good in this month, or rather I need this product in this month, but it is fine if I don't use this product in the next month, because next month, or rather the next month after this, will give me a this same product at a lower price. So can I postpone it to the next month, because it is fine for me. So today, if the car prices are going to shoot down from April, I can still postpone my buying of the car in the April. Is it not necessary? It is not necessary for me, because इतने साल से बिना कार के चल रहा हूँ. So few more months I can still work on that. It is not necessary for me कि मेरे को जाना है उधर and then I have to take that specific car only and I have to buy it right now. Nothing like that. Hence, this thing needs to be understood that if the consumption of such goods and products can be postponed, it has elasticity of demand, or rather the demand for that specific good is elastic. For example, the demand of MP3 players is elastic because its use can be postponed for some time if the prices go up, but the demand for rice and wheat is inelastic because their use cannot be postponed when their prices increases. So if the use of that thing, again the use of this specific thing is very important. MP3 player, car is something that you don't use it on regular basis. You might use it for fun and for entertainment, but in the day, are you going to work or are you just going to have fun and entertainment? Unless and until you're on vacations, that is fine. But it is not something, because you need food. If you can skip food, then you can skip everything. So but if you're not able to skip food, because that is a basic necessity of your life, hence that something has a use, a specific use, which cannot be postponed here. Hence these are the goods that you need to understand about. So whatever points we have understood right now, whatever things we have learned about right now, discusses, or rather tells you about what are the several different determinants that we have understood, which can give you a concept clarity about price elasticity of demand. So this is what you need to understand. So this is all about price elasticity of demand and what we have to explain further on this. Thank you.